Inside the stories that affect you. This is Inside KELOLAND.
Good evening. School's back in session and your child's schedule is likely filling up fast. And this could be a fun time for kids, but some may feel a little overwhelmed by all the pressure from their classes, extracurricular activities, and friends. Now the Helpline Center has a program geared toward teens to help them through this stage in their life. Tonight we'll explain how the Text for Hope program works. As many as 15,000 Americans are currently living with ALS, a disease that attacks nerve cells. Tonight, we share details on how you can help those living with the condition. Plus, we'll show you the progress being made on the St. Francis House's new facility. Well, being a teenager can come with a lot of responsibilities, from home life to school life and everything in between. This age can also hit kids with a wide range of emotions and uncertainty on where to turn. A program through the Helpline Center could provide some comfort. Joining us today to talk about the Text for Help program is Sherry Nelson from the Helpline Center. Thank you for being here, Sherry.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. So Text for Hope, why is it called that, first of all?
Well, to offer hope that there is someone there, like you said, with increasing stress going on with high school students, we want to offer them hope and a place to turn to. And so that's why we are now calling it Text for Hope.
The program idea is not brand new, though. It's been around for a little while.
Yeah. But what is new is we are now offering our Text for Hope program to every high school student in the state of South Dakota.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
so anybody can call. Really,
yes.
Any high schools, or text, that is, not call, text.
Yes, text.
And why is texting so important at this age?
Well, we want to reach them where they're at. As you know, anyone who has an adolescent in their home, they would rather get on their phone and text versus pick up the phone and talk with someone.
Especially a stranger.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really intimidating for kids. They can't hardly go up and ask their teacher for something. You know,
Right.
they feel very intimidated. So to call somebody up and just start talking is really hard for a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so have you had in the past, when you've had this program in place, good response to it?
Oh, absolutely. It's confidential for teenagers to text in, and they'll talk about anything that they're struggling with. We do have trained crisis staff available to them 24/7, and so they can text in if they're just having a bad day. But obviously, we are there for them if they are in a crisis situation.
I think things are hard for teenagers today with social media. They have so much pressure to, first of all, excel, do the best they can to get scholarships, get into colleges, also to excel at sports, and then the pressures of social media, of other people's opinions, forced upon them, and sometimes bullying and things like that.
Yeah,
that go along with that.
Absolutely.
So what kinds of texts do you get from kids?
Yes.
What can kids text in for?
Yeah, there's a variety of different kind of texts that we get. People text in when they're having thoughts of suicide, or if their friend is having thoughts of suicide and they don't know how to help them. And so they text in for relationship issues. I broke up with my girlfriend or boyfriend. I'm struggling with academics. I don't know how to get that help. Just stress in general. And we know that there are, kids are facing a lot more stress these days. And we want to offer them a place where they can text if they are in crisis or if they just need that support.
Do you have any stories of when someone texted in and they were helped by this service?
Sure. One that kind of sticks out that has recently happened, someone has texted in and this was last semester, they were texting in because they were struggling with a semester test and they had just lost a grandparent who had just recently passed away. They didn't know how to talk about it, and so we spoke with them. We make sure that they had resources that they needed, and eventually by the end of the conversation, they did decide to go talk with their school counselor. And a lot of times, in those situations, there's help available to
They
them.
just don't necessarily know where to go, right?
Right.
So does the texting lead to a phone conversation typically?
Not necessarily.
Sometimes?
It can lead to a phone conversation, especially if they are texting in and they are in a crisis situation. You know, we ask, hey, can you give us a call? And it may be easier to talk over the phone.
You know, a lot of times kids now are with their phones, not that it's a good thing, but 24/7. Because
Yes.
I just heard recently, I saw a former teacher posted on Facebook, get your phones out of your kid's bedroom at night, which is kind of true because kids will be up all night texting their friends.
Yes.
But in this case, the service, when is it available? All hours of the day and night?
All hours. We are there available 24/7. So we have trained crisis staff available 24/7.
Now, you mentioned thoughts of suicide because we know that suicide rates have really skyrocketed. I think they're the highest they've been in the U.S. since World War II. Teenagers are especially vulnerable. Suicide rates among women and girls have increased by something like 50% over a 10-year period. So you're really focusing on that. When someone does text you with those ideas, do you have to call 911 right away, or what do you do?
We do not call 911 right away. The only time that we call 911, 74% of the time we handle those calls and texts because we work with that person. When someone texts in with thoughts of suicide, we look at the intent and we work with them on making a safety plan to ensure their safety. Of course, with adolescents, we obviously get other people involved and surround them with support. And then we also call them back and we do a follow-up phone call to make sure that they are continued to be safe.
And that they're getting help.
Yes,
and they're okay.
absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about Suicide Prevention Week. You're starting some activities on Friday. What's happening with that?
So Suicide Prevention Week is coming up. So September 6th through the 14th. We have our first event is September 6th. We have our Hope and Healing Art Show, and that is down at Ray Feld's. And so Ray Feld's is hosting our Hope and Healing Art Show, and we're very grateful to them. That's from 6 to 9. And so survivors and people with lived experience have given art, and we are displaying that down at Rayfeld. So that's one event we are having. We also have another event, which is September 8th. We are doing a Shine a Light event down at Falls Park. And so we will meet at 7:30 at Falls Park and do a short ceremony at the Overlook Cafe. And then we'll do a short candlelight walk by the falls.
Very nice.
And then it will end with the falls being lit purple for the week of suicide prevention.
And we have put all of this information for you, of course, on
Yes.
KELOLAND.com under the Inside KELOLAND story that you'll see on our website.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here and for everything that you're doing. It's really important work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us inside KELOLAND. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside KELOLAND. It has been 5 years, believe it or not, since the Ice Bucket Challenge drew attention to ALS. While it helped raise a lot of money nationwide, the disease has not gone away. Joining us to talk about this neurological condition and the events going on locally are Stacy Donovan and Jennifer Elizabeth and Michael Kranz. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Stacy, maybe we could start off by talking a little bit about what ALS is. I think the Ice Bucket Challenge, everybody heard of it now. You know, my kids did the Ice Bucket Challenge, but people don't always know what it is.
Right. A lot of people relate to ALS as knowing it as Lou Gehrig's disease. So
Sure.
It's a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects your brain and your spinal cord, and eventually will take your ability to walk, eat.
I think the most devastating thing about this disease, and I've seen some documentaries and heard some podcasts and things about it, is the fact that it does really just rob the person of their ability
Yes.
to do everything. And Jennifer, you have firsthand experience with this.
Yes. In fact, it's ALS has struck my family on both sides. My grandfather, 20 plus years ago, lost his brother to the disease, and then recently, my father-in-law had passed away from ALS as well. So
And
it's
that's
very
Elizabeth's
close to home.
grandpa and your kids and grandpa.
Yeah.
And you wanted to talk a little bit about that and what happened to your grandpa.
So at first, I was like 5 when he got it, and at first he was okay, but he had to walk with a cane, and then it started to get worse to where he couldn't walk at all, and he had to have like a little wheelchair thing to bring him around, and then he could barely use the ability of his hands, and he needed like a feeding tube and stuff sometimes to help him, and it just got really worse really fast.
Was it hard to watch? Mm-hmm. And how long did it go on for? Do you know, or do you know, Jennifer?
He battled the disease for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So that's a big chunk of your life. That's a big chunk of your life. And you're helping your mom in efforts to raise money and awareness to battle this disease. So what are you doing?
So we go to a lot of towns that are really close around El Rapids, and mainly we go to a lot of local businesses and a bunch of extra too. And we go around and bring flyers, and we ask if they will promote our program by hanging up a flyer and ask them if they want to donate anything. And we go to a lot of towns, and it takes up a lot of our summer, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love how articulate you are, too. You're 10 years old? Awesome. You can come back as a guest anytime on Inside KELOLAND. Stacey, what types of events are you doing here in the Sioux Falls area?
In the Sioux Falls area, well, there's community fundraisers similar to the poker run, and then we also have our Walk to Defeat ALS, which is September 21st.
Right. The poker run comes up first.
Yep.
Right. Tell
Yep.
us a little bit about what's happening with that.
So with our poker run, you'll come down to Trent, South Dakota. We'll have several stops. You'll get a piece of paper like this, where you'll have several stops, and we have a meal deal. We have all kinds of options with this, and it's very family friendly, very family oriented. We have 50-50 tickets for half the pot and prizes. We have, again, like I said, our meal deal, our silent auction that goes on. And like I said, all the proceeds benefit the ALS, our local chapters, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and we pick the equipment program, research, and the technology program
So I see
specifically.
other vehicles besides motorcycles
Yes,
as well.
and yes, so we do include all vehicles because we do realize not everyone is able to still ride or be on a motorcycle, wants to be a part of it. We also do have $1 Makes a Difference, which is another way people can do online, do it anonymously, they can mail it in. We have it so that anyone can participate from anywhere in any capacity.
And it's so great that you're doing it in honor of Grandpa Mick, right? I mean,
Right,
so we see
yes.
all his picture there in the flyer,
Yes,
and
yeah.
just a wonderful way to remember somebody
Yes.
that way too. So, Stacey, are we any closer to having any breakthroughs in treating this disease, in maybe preventing it?
Yeah. Well, since the Ice Bucket Challenge, we've been able to identify 5 genes.
Was
are-
that because of all the money raised from the Ice Bucket?
A lot of
there
it
was a lot of money raised.
Yeah, over
yeah.
220 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there are currently about 4 medications, drugs that are approved to slow the progression and maybe treat some of the symptoms. But
Are there
they're-
any misconceptions about this disease, do you think?
I think people don't realize that there is no cure, that it is fatal.
It's just progressive. I mean, people are going to die once
Yeah.
they get this. It's just
Right.
these drugs are a matter of maybe improving the quality of life
Right.
while the disease progresses.
Right. Yep.
Right.
An average, once diagnosed, it's usually about maybe 2.5 to 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so sad how people lose all ability to function. I mean,
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's why, like I said, we will continue to do what we do, and that's why I believe that my children are so passionate about it as well, because they've met other people with this disease, and they realize what they're doing is such a good thing.
Have they identified a gene or anything that can lead to someone getting this disease?
There is, it's called familial onset, and they have identified some 5 genes that are related to ALS.
So are you worried at all about your kids or,
I will say that's, yes, in the back of my mind, I mean, that it's there, it could be
and
a
hopefully as time
possibility.
goes on, they'll come up with a cure.
A
right?
cure, like I
Before-
said,
Yes.
for
Yep.
my grandpa, 20 plus years ago, so still now we're finally getting somewhere.
What is the average age of onset?
Usually in between 40s and 50s.
Yeah, it's usually older, isn't it? A little bit older, not not
But we
kids,
have
not-
seen young. We have seen pediatric
You have?
ALS. Yep. And then maybe some younger ages too, like 30s too. So
Okay, so you have the poker run, then you have a walk coming up, a couple of walks,
Yeah.
or was it just one walk? Oh, we have a walk in Rapid City, or
the walk in Rapid City was in June.
oh, it wasn't
Yeah,
June.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you can catch that next year if
Yes,
you're out West
yeah,
River.
but
yes.
come to the Sioux Falls one.
Yes. Anything else you'd like to add?
Michael had
Michael
something.
wants to talk.
He has something he'd like to
So
say.
the first year we did an ice bucket challenge.
It was.
It was very fun and I really enjoyed it. Then we decided to make our own poker run.
Every year.
Every year we drop out flyers and get donations. We have fun doing that too.
I think it's wonderful you're teaching your kids that sense of service too and giving back.
Yes,
that's
and giving
fantastic.
back,
Thank
yeah.
you, Michael. How old are you? 8. 8. Michael and Elizabeth and everyone, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Well, we are going to take a quick break. Stay with us inside KELOLAND. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside KELOLAND. Big changes are underway at the St. Francis House in Sioux Falls. The organization that helps homeless individuals get back on their feet is building a brand new facility. Joining us today to give us an update on the project and a look ahead to an important event is Julie Becker, the executive director of the St. Francis House. Julie, how many years have you been with the St. Francis? I'm thinking we've talked so many times.
Yes.
And how many years?
I'm just entering my 15th year.
15 years. And you were always in, I can just imagine the house, going over there and talking to you for different stories that we've done. And it was showing its age for sure, no doubt.
Almost definitely.
And it was full all the time.
Always full. Yep, always full.
So the need for a new facility started several years ago.
When you think about that building was originally built in 1956 for 12 Benedictine sisters who taught across the street at Little Flower. And today, I have 52 people in that building.
Wow.
So then times that by all the years, St. Francis House has been operating for 32 years. And we average anywhere between 300 and 400 people a year. There's a lot of people who've walked through that building.
There certainly are.
Yeah.
And it was starting to show its age, and then you knew you needed a new facility. You knew you needed to serve more people.
Right.
The problem just continues to grow, or the need, I should say, continues to grow. So at what point did you start your fundraising campaign?
Well, when we look back, we started about 4 years ago because we wanted to do things a little bit differently. We had community meetings where we talked with agency stakeholders about what should we be doing? Should we be doing things differently? Is this the neighborhood to be in? And then we did a feasibility study. And then after that, we got some great information. So we spent time researching every answer that was given during those survey questions. And then we kicked off our campaign last May 18th, or May 11th, excuse me, of 2018, for $5.5 million.
And that's a lot. That's a lot to do
That's
in
a lot
a
of
short
money.
period of time.
It is.
But you did it.
We did. We hit campaign goal this past July at our 16th annual dinner and auction. We raised the last $100,000 we needed to cross the finish line.
And that was when demolition could begin. And
Oh, no. Our board was very supportive that if we hit a milestone. So we took the opportunity and we started demo back in April. And so we've been moving forward, and we are actually 3 weeks ahead of schedule.
Oh,
we were
that's
supposed to not move it
fantastic.
until January, and now we're looking at potentially the middle of December.
And we're looking at a rendering of the new facility. It looks incredible.
Right.
How many square feet are we talking about here, and how many
Well-
families and individuals will you be able to house?
When you look at that, we're doing it in 2 phases. So if you look at the far left, that is the second phase, that wing, because that's where our current main shelter is. So the rest of it is actually what's being built now, and that is projected to be done on December 15th. That will include offices, dining room, a commercial kitchen, which we've never had, and then the south end, that is much like a college dorm, 2 in a room, there's 2 floors, and that's where we'll move initially. Then when we move out of the main shelter in December, they'll tear down the main shelter and build this last wing on the north. So when we're all done, the north end will be for women, then we'll have the middle section, and then the south end will be for men.
What is the philosophy of the St. Francis House?
Well, our mission statement is moving people from homelessness to hope. And we take people at, honestly, all walks of life, at all points of their life. Sometimes we've had people that have been sleeping in cars, to people who have come right out of jail. Some have been on the streets.
And you have families, kids, a whole gamut.
Yes,
I mean, anybody who just does not have a home and needs a place to live.
Our youngest has been newborn infants, all the way to 76 is the oldest.
And they go through a screening process.
Right.
And they have to have some responsibilities while they're there. How long can they stay?
They can stay up to a year, as long as they meet the criteria to check in. No one can be charged or convicted of a sexual crime or a violent crime in the last 5 years. And we do that because we want to make sure that not only the other guests, but our volunteers and our donors and staff are safe.
You want everyone to feel safe.
Right. We want to make sure
there.
that people are welcome and it's a safe home.
And you have your big event coming up in November?
Yes, it is during Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week. And it will be our 3rd annual Walk a Mile in Their Shoes. And we start at the memorial, which is actually right behind Lutheran Social Services, the old Killian Community College.
Sure.
We say a prayer and we read off the names of those that are homeless that have passed in the last year, as well as service providers. And then we walk up to the St. Francis House carrying a backpack with 15 pounds of non-perishable items. And then the whole thing is, this is an advocacy event. It's not something just to benefit St. Francis House. So after the event, we sort everything out, and then we share all of those resources. So yes, St. Francis House is going to get some of the backpacks, but then we also share some if Bishop Dudley needs some, or if the individuals with DUI or drug court need those. Safe Home, whoever needs them, we want to disperse them out into the community.
You know, one thing that I'm aware of is you have people who are going through drug court who are there. And how big of an issue does addiction play in people ending up at the St. Francis House in the first place?
Yeah, when I look at my tenure that I've been there, I look at the percentage when I first started of people with addiction. It's always been zero tolerance in a working program, but it was pretty minimal. But now we're up to 97% of our guests have some form of addiction, whether it be alcohol, drugs, gambling, or a combination of 1, 2, or all 3.
And you are drug testing on a regular basis these days?
Yes, we are now moved to random drug testing every month, and then every night they have to do a PBT to breathalyze for alcohol.
And I would guess that the increase in drug use and the increase in the number of people finding themselves becoming addicted to substances has caused an increase in your population.
It's an increase in our population, but also a change in our service. When I started, if someone came back and they were positive for alcohol or drugs, they were done. You have to leave, you can't stay, and then there was a period of time before they could come back. Well, we evolved as well as our community needed to, that says, okay, this is an addiction, this is a disease. And so if someone has what we call a hiccup, then they do need to leave for 24 to 48 hours. And then they can come back and we'll start this again. Because I can't have someone in the building who's under the influence, because then that jeopardizes someone else's sobriety. But we come back and we start all over again.
That's fantastic. Give people more chances. And
That's
we have
right.
put a lot of information for you on how you can help the St. Francis House on KELOLAND.com. Stay with us. Inside KELOLAND, we'll be right back.